3 billion years ago, life began as a collection of atoms in a planetary petri dish. By 6 million years ago, the first hominids appeared, beginning a long era of hunting and gathering. For nearly 2 million years, species like Homo erectus moved across the globe, surviving entirely on what they could find or kill. The shift occurred around 4000 BCE in Mesopotamia. In the city of Uruk, humans stopped chasing their food and began to manufacture it, learning to harvest and store cereal grains like wheat and barley. This reliance on farming carried a heavy biological cost. Manually crushing grain with stone handmills was a grueling, repetitive labor that stunted the human frame. Within a few generations, the average height of men dropped from 5'9" to 5'3". Women saw a similar decline, shrinking to an average of 5 feet. As we became sedentary, the concept of being landlocked took hold. For the first time, human survival was tied to specific, defended borders. The focus of our species moved away from the horizon and toward the defense of property. Agriculture provided the excess calories needed to grow a population of 50,000, but it created a new vulnerability. By anchoring ourselves to the soil, we built the engine of prosperity and the primary cause of future conflict: the permanent need to conquer and protect territory. Governing these massive, stationary populations required a new tool: written law. In 1772 BCE, King Hammurabi of Babylon codified 282 rules into stone. These weren't guidelines for equals. They were a map of a class-based society where the life of a noble carried a higher price than that of a commoner, and a slave was treated as mere property. While Babylon used the law to control the living, Egypt used its resources to worship the dead. Pharaohs diverted the labor of an entire nation to construct monuments like the Great Pyramid of Giza, a massive stone vault designed to preserve a single spirit for eternity. This was only possible through a rigid social structure. At the bottom, a massive base of peasants and slaves provided the manual labor. Above them, artisans, merchants, and scribes managed the empire's wealth, all existing to serve the bureaucrats, priests, and the god-king at the top. These early civilizations established a dark, recurring theme in human history. The energy and lives of the masses would be harvested to build the legacy and the wealth of the absolute rulers who claimed to speak for the gods. By 400 BCE, ancient Greece was defined by two opposing ideals. To the south, Sparta operated as a brutal military barracks. To the north, Athens experimented with a chaotic democracy, where every male citizen held a vote. This wealth and political competition produced the Parthenon, a physical testament to Athenian hegemony. Alexander the Great eventually unified these factions under a single purpose: conquest. He marched his army thousands of miles, dismantling the Persian Empire and spreading Greek culture from the Nile to the Indus Valley through relentless military force. But while Alexander expanded the physical world, others were exploring the internal one. In India, a prince named Siddhartha Gautama walked away from a life of royal luxury to confront the reality of suffering. After 6 years of seeking, he achieved a state of inner peace, becoming the Buddha. In the East, philosophies like Confucianism and Taoism emerged to provide social order and psychological resilience. They taught loyalty, responsibility, and how to live in harmony with the universe, helping the peasant classes endure the hardships of life under an emperor. These two forces, the sword and the scroll, worked in tandem. As empires expanded their borders through violence, they unintentionally created the pathways for these enduring religions and philosophies to travel, eventually outlasting the empires themselves. Rome's expansion was even more clinical. After conquering the tribes of Gaul, Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon with his army, violating the law and turning a republic into a dictatorship. He consolidated the Roman Forum as the nerve center of a massive political and military machine. This Roman infrastructure had an unintended side effect. Strict imperial laws required citizens like Joseph and Mary to travel to Bethlehem for a census, an event that birthed Christianity. The new faith then utilized Rome's own roads and trade networks to spread with a speed that the state couldn't contain. Eventually, the empire became too vast for a single center to hold. Internal corruption and civil wars weakened the West, leaving it vulnerable to nomadic tribes like the Huns and Visigoths, who eventually sacked the city and ended Roman rule in Europe. Authority shifted east to Constantinople. Under Justinian I, the Byzantine Empire preserved the legal codes of the past and built the Hagia Sophia. This architectural marvel served as a new center of religious power, projecting Roman authority long after Rome itself had fallen. Soon, a new force emerged from the Arabian Peninsula. Following the death of Muhammad, Islamic caliphs united the region and launched an explosive expansion, conquering territory from Spain to the Indus Valley and establishing a scientific golden age in Baghdad. These expanding worlds inevitably collided. Western knights launched the Crusades to capture Jerusalem, while the Mongol hordes swept out of the east. Under Genghis Khan, they unleashed speed and terror that dismantled every army in their path, creating the largest contiguous land empire in history. The end of classical antiquity didn't mean the end of civilization. It meant the world was now decentralized, leading into a period defined by massive global migrations and the first truly global clashes of religious ideology. In the mid-1300s, the bubonic plague killed nearly half of Europe's population. This catastrophe reconfigured the economy. With so few workers left alive, those who survived could demand higher wages and greater rights, beginning the slow erosion of the old feudal order. This new wealth sparked the Renaissance. Intellectuals merged art with scientific observation. Leonardo da Vinci utilized his studies of anatomy and optics to create works like the Mona Lisa, capturing human emotion with precision lost for centuries. In politics, Niccolò Machiavelli's The Prince stripped away the religious veneer of leadership. He argued that empires were maintained not through divine right or the love of the people, but through the strategic use of fear and punishment. The absolute power of the Church was the next to fracture. In 1517, Martin Luther challenged the corrupt sale of indulgences. By documenting his 95 arguments and circulating them, he demonstrated that a single individual with a printing press could dismantle a global institution's authority. These movements revealed that absolute power relied on a monopoly of thought. By challenging that monopoly with art and the written word, the Renaissance and Reformation proved that intellectual dissent could destabilize a throne as effectively as an invading army. As Europe looked outward, it discovered the Americas. Indigenous civilizations like the Aztecs were destroyed not just by gunfire, but by a biological invasion. The Templo Mayor of Tenochtitlan was literally buried beneath the foundations of a new European empire. By the late 1700s, the focus shifted from conquest to rights. The American Revolution was the first major rejection of monarchy in favor of the idea that all people possess unalienable human rights. The signatures on the Declaration of Independence marked a final break from the ancient blueprint of absolute rule. This political shift coincided with an economic one. Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations argued that societies build prosperity through free markets and individual labor rather than the hoarding of gold by a king. After 6 million years of evolution and a relentless cycle of rising and falling empires, the true legacy of human history is clear. It isn't found in the borders drawn by conquerors, but in the slow, enduring evolution of the ideas that continue to shape our world today.